Walt Disney and entrepreneurship on being a realistic optimist. Excerpt number 2. Hello, my friends. I'm Ray Keating, and this is the Dose of Disney podcast. I am a novelist and economist, and I am the editor and publisher of DisneyBizJournal.substack.com. So now on this podcast, we look at Disney news, Disney-related news, stories, insights, lessons, debates, discussions, and so on. We're in the midst of a new series on Walt Disney and entrepreneurship, based on my book, 10 Points from Walt Disney on Entrepreneurship. See how that works? So Walt, of course, was one of the great entrepreneurs of the 20th century. What better person to try to tap into his wisdom on such matters than Walt? I look to Walt in this book for what it means to be an entrepreneur, embracing entrepreneurship, the various challenges, failures, opportunities in the entrepreneurial journey. It also taps into my work as an economist, focusing largely on entrepreneurship and small business over the years, along with my Disney work. So these excerpts hopefully will serve as something of an inspiration or provide some insights on entrepreneurship for you, for people thinking about becoming entrepreneurs, for people that own their own business, for people that are just fascinated by the process of entrepreneurship and Walt Disney's entrepreneurial journey. Hopefully it'll also inspire people to buy the book, 10 Points from Walt Disney on Entrepreneurship, and some of my other books at Amazon, at RayKeatingBooksandMore.com for signed books. So let's get started with this second episode. I as I mentioned at first, it's a little awkward because I don't like reading in video format, but I think this works for what we're doing here. So let's get to it. So I asked 2 questions. What does it take to be an entrepreneur? What kind of mindset does the entrepreneur need? Walt said, quote, "I always like to look on the optimistic side of life, but I am realistic enough to know that life is a complex matter." So what does it mean to be a realistic optimist? Let's start with the meaning of the 2 key words. According to the New Oxford American Dictionary, optimism means hopefulness and confidence about the future or the successful outcome of something. That's a fair definition. Meanwhile, realism is defined as the attitude or practice of accepting a situation as it is and being prepared to deal with it accordingly. Now, there's nothing contradictory here. Rather, for the realistic optimist, these are really complementary terms. Too often when hearing that an individual is an optimist, some people will think of the wild-eyed optimist detached from reality, subscribing to the notion that nothing will ever go wrong and failure doesn't exist. That's not true optimism. Instead, it's an unhealthy effort to cut oneself off from real life. An optimist doesn't shun reality for fantasy. Rather, substantive optimism must be rooted in reality. Hopefulness and confidence in the future and in success doesn't mean that there won't be setbacks and failures. If Walt Disney were around today, he certainly would agree, as he experienced failure before achieving his success, as well as some failures amidst his subsequent amazing achievements. The realistic optimist understands that all will not go perfectly and is prepared to deal with it. The realistic optimist perseveres through the setbacks, challenges, and failures. The realistic optimist learns from failures and unexpected turns and moves forward with hope and confidence in ultimately being successful in accomplishing whatever task is set out, including starting up, operating, and building a business. Walt Disney said, quote, "All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them," close quote. Very popular quote from Walt. That is an optimistic statement rooted in reality, not fantasy. After all, Walt is acknowledging that pursuing one's dream, such as having your own business, will require more than dreams and wishes. It calls for courage. He knew that there are challenges, obstacles, and setbacks during the entrepreneurial journey, and that courage is required to overcome them and to overcome one's own fears and doubts. Indeed, being a realistic optimist doesn't mean that you won't have some bad days or down times, but the realistic optimist works not to wallow in such periods, and instead works to truncate them, to come away with lessons learned, and to get back to positively advancing towards one's goals. I'm a realistic optimist. When I first came across Walt Disney's quote about being one, I was excited. I was on the right track. I appreciated that. I have great respect for Walt and what he achieved, and I really appreciate his attitude on much of life and certainly on the entrepreneurial journey. Please subscribe to Disney Biz Journal Substack.com. You become a paid subscriber. You get 3 free books to start out. Indeed, you get 10 points from Walt Disney on entrepreneurship, the Disney Planner, and 1950s sci-fi. If you don't want to become a paid subscriber, although I hope you do, you can get those books over at RayKeatingBooksAndMore.com. Take care, and I hope you have a magically productive day.